cellists, Mia the Creative Cellist here, and today I'd like to share with you my top 10 warm-ups for adult cellists. These are warm-ups that I use in my own practice and that many of my students have told me are really helpful and beneficial for them to feel warmed up and ready to play. So if you would like a full class version of these 10 warm-ups where we go through the warm-ups in detail, feel free to comment below this video and I will send you a full copy of that. That said, I'm going to go quickly through these and maybe you will find that some of these inspire your next warm-up. So the first thing I always start my warm-ups with is long bow meditations, and long bow meditations is anything where you're putting together a long open string bow with a breathing exercise. The next thing I like to do is chromatic sprints, half-step sprints up and down the cello to make sure that my fingers are moving quickly and with fluidity. The next thing I like to do is to go through a circle of fifths sequence using chord shapes. And chord shapes are something that I love to teach all of my cellists so that you're able to play fluidly in all 12 keys. The next thing that I always do is octave slides. So that's sliding from one of the lower positions to a higher position and playing octaves up and down the strings. This gets me working with shifts. It gets my ear working to hear the octaves. And it's just really nice for getting yourself coordinated with your body and your breath and your mind. The next thing I like to do is what I call rainbow bowing. So that's where we're doing string crossings across all 4 strings with various combinations of fingers. The sixth thing I like to do is frog tip scales. So that's where you just pick a simple scale, but you play one note at the frog, one note at the tip, and then you go back and forth, and you can go slow or fast, but the point is to get really strong articulation and clear sound both at the frog and the tip of your bow. The next thing I often incorporate into my warm-ups, depending on what I'm doing that day, is lifting. And lifting essentially is just listening to a little bit of cello music and trying to pick it out by ear. I know that many of you may not have learned music by ear or aren't used to doing that, but if you want to really improve your ear and become a better musician, trying to lift or listen to music and pick it up by ear is one of the strongest things that you can do. The next thing I like to do are one finger scales on all strings. So I pick a string, let's say the C string, and I play a C scale with one finger going up the string, then G scale, and then D scale, and then A scale. This is super great for working on releasing your thumb while you shift, really good for understanding your intervals, and just an overall great activity for feeling really comfortable with your fingerboard. The next thing I like to do is some thumb conditioning. So thumb conditioning, if you're working on thumb position, is where you go into the thumb position, you put your thumb on the harmonic, and you just rub the thumb half steps forward and half steps back. And then once you're used to that, you can kind of keep going. So you're creating half steps up and down the fingerboard. And the last thing I like to do to work on fluidity in my bow arm and full bow distribution is tense and release tremolo. So this is where you use a tremolo bow and you do tremolo at the frog, and then you go to the tip and you do the tremolo at the tip. And at the same time, you do your tremolo really, really tight and then really, really loose. So you're creating a sense of control in your arm so that you can work on exactly controlling the tension in your wrist and your arm, which is essential as a cello player to be able to control tense and release. So those are the 10 warm-ups that I like to do in my playing. If you would like a copy of that class where we go through them in much more detail, please put a comment below and I will send that class to you ASAP.